welcome to today's installment. Today, we're excited to introduce something new under the Kollective Konversations platform, the Growth Podcast. Kollective Konversations has been about bringing real conversations to the community, conversations that inform, challenge, and inspire action. But we recognized a deeper need. We needed a space specifically focused on youth development, a space where literacy meets life, where communication meets confidence, where decisions shape direction. The Growth Podcast was created to help youth ages 6 through 18 build real-world skills through honest dialogue, practical scenarios, and teachable moments that connect learning to everyday life. This isn't just another show. It's a growth space. Through literacy, communication, and life skills, we're preparing young people not just for school, but for adulthood, leadership, and independence. So today marks the beginning of something intentional. Welcome to the Growth Podcast, powered by the Summit Collective. Let's grow together.
Thank you. Thank you all, man. Thank you all for being here. Like you said, the Growth Podcast is a new podcast we're doing through the Summit Collective, but it's definitely needed. Young people are growing in the world very fast. There's a lot of fast information, there's a lot of fast opinions, fast reactions, but sometimes, we have to stop, know how to think, how to communicate and make wise decisions. And this isn't only for youth, this is also for adults as well, me included. And I think, through the growth of, our podcast, we had to do something different, and the growth is the way to do it because it definitely merges TSK Learns, which is another extension of the Summit Collective, which brings literacy and life skills together. And I think it helps as well. So, it talks about, something we realize, school, they teach subjects, social media teaches trends, but who's teaching about growth? And why not us? Why can't we do that? So this will be created for that reason, where literacy meets real life. And also the conversation we make will help go beyond motivation, but it's also into application. And that's what we need. We have to apply these things as well. So while we build confidence, independence, and also preparing youth, not only for a graduation, but also adulthood as well. And I think that's a great thing too. So we just didn't start by accident. It hasn't been. It's really started by, definitely conversation, mentorship, and also intentional because we have to, we have to better ourselves and our well-being. And I think this is going to help today. Today, when we talk, and we'll do this, like I said before, what we've been doing here at Kollective Konversations is also trying to open up a little bit, not becoming just a one, kind of a one thing subject type of thing. I know we have guests on, and we will continue to have guests on as well, but we also have to, get to the nuts and bolts of what we do. And this is we're a nonprofit that works with kids, and I think we need to get, focus on that as well. So this is the best way to do it, and I like it. And I thank you all for being here, Chesney, you as well. You will have some talking points to talk about as well. Today, we're going to, focus on the topic today would be growth through everyday decisions. And I think, that's a good thing because, growth isn't something that just happens when you get older. It happens when we make better decisions. And I really believe that. So today we'll be talking about real life growth, daily choices. And things of that nature. When we talk about, it's March, and if you blink your eye, it was June. It was January, right? And in January we made a whole bunch of New Year's resolutions that we went by, but guess what? They probably gone by the wayside. But what if they were just daily training, goals that you would do every day? Then you would do them all the time. So I think this is what the big, making better daily choices is a big way we can do it. And that's that's all we want. We want success, right? But success comes from doing the small, consistent things. And that's what we're trying to do today. That's what we're trying to do today.
There's a book called The Compound Effect, which there's been a few times that I've talked about the book because it's probably one of my favorite reads. All the book is just about kind of like the same philosophy of finance, like where you have compounding interest. Basically making your choices compounding, small decisions on a daily basis adding up to a whole lot on the back end.
Right.
And it goes into that philosophy of, motivation is not as good as discipline. It's an everyday thing.
No, it is. And when we go back and, we start our first little topic here, you're both young, so you both, kind of speak on it. I can too, but why do you think young people per se kind of struggle with decision making? In your own words, I mean, we have some other things too.
I feel like a lot of that comes from like peer pressure. Like they're scared to do one thing because of what the next person thinks, or they think that if they don't do it the other people's way, then it's not the way to go.
Right. I mean, a lot of young people, a lot of times I think in the older perspective, we think that young people don't have the smarts, right? But a lot of times is they struggle with the impulse. Not so much even like she just said, not even the smart part of it. It's just the fact of being, definitely being pressured into something and that just make a sudden decision. I mean, just like that.
I think another thing that it could be is that it is the mindset at the time, because even with the things that a child is in every day, like school, a lot of children don't look at school as growth, and it just doesn't have that mindset behind it. Whereas an older individual will always look at that as a person is learning, is growing in some way, so it might just be a mindset thing and perspective, they might not, a child isn't planning for the future. A child isn't, trying to align those things to be able to have the career that they want yet. So, like kind of impulse, they see the things in front of them, it's fun, whatever it might be, they're just not there yet.
We live in a fast world now. Quick. And I think that's a lot. What is that? Quick reactions, right? Sometimes quick messages.
Yeah.
Sometimes quick tempers. And that's when we get into, some real big problems when we do this. And I think, but what if we were taught to pause, to think, right? I can say what I want to say. Yeah, you could possibly, but maybe we just wait a little bit before you speak. Maybe just, take a moment, gather yourself before we do that. A lot of times, I talk about it all the time. It's like, your emotions. Your emotions could be like driving a car, right? And what I mean by that is if you had your emotions, right, and let's say you were very upset and it was the engine, man, you'd be all over the road because you can't control it. And it's like, but what if that thing that was bothering you, you put it in the trunk? It's doing that. It's irritating, but it definitely isn't steering the car. And I think a lot of times that's what happens when people do that. It makes it, really hard for them. And especially when you're younger as well, and so many decisions are made, man. When you look on the news, so many decisions are made very quick, on those things. And I hate that, when I was younger, I did a lot of things based off emotion and, and I regret it. Some things I regret really, but if I would have just, had someone to teach about pausing or to talk about this pausing, man, may not have cost me that, the things that it cost me. Because, and it says this, most mistakes aren't even permanent, but the habits behind them can become permanent. And that's a scary thing when you think about some of these habits and you think, some of the older gentlemen or older women that I, encountered, some of these things, the mistakes in the thing is just those habits that they pick up, man, and they keep going and keep going.
Like we are what our habits, what choices we make. And, right now it could be a small choice and it's just a quick decision. It doesn't really have an effect. But if I choose to sit on the couch and eat food all day, every single day, that is who I will become eventually.
Right.
You can always make the choice to get out of that. But like kind of same thing on like not being their side, like an adult, they have things that they've lived through. They have lessons and stuff that they can remember, whether it's their own or somebody else, to say at that point in time, you know what, I'm not gonna make that decision. That child just ain't thinking like that at times. And there definitely are that have like we call them old souls a lot of the time.
Right.
Right. But that's just because they seem a little bit more wise than what's around them.
Right. And one would say, if they've talked to probably a friend or two in the past, they might say something similar. They always acted like it, even when they were younger. That's just, and you find that a lot as well. Going back to what you said, Chesney, about is it pressure though? Is it wanting to fit in though? I mean, is it wanting to fit in when we talk about these bad decisions that people make?
Yeah, I think that that's one thing, especially in the like younger group. Like they want to fit in with the next group, or they want to do the things the next group does because it looks cool, or it makes them popular, or whatever.
And you're right, but we see that on, like I told you, and I said it earlier. You know, social media, they teach trends. You know what I mean? They teach trends. You know, and I'm just saying, but some of those trends are, you know, definitely not, you know, the best decisions are being made. But that's where you get all the views or all the likes, and that's something, you know, we have to, you know, definitely try to steer away from. And it is a, you know, a fear of not fitting in, because I mean, once you don't do it, I mean, it's like, oh man, you know, I mean, this was a long time, you know. I mean, I wasn't indulged in a lot of things. I always wondered about it, but you know what I mean. But I wish I would have stayed on that side of it. You know what I mean? At that point, it was drinking, but you know what I mean. It was wow, but you know what I mean. It's like, what's on the other side of that? And you see, but it was never that great. It was never that great. You know, when it was, once you was in it, it was never that great. You know what I mean? And you wish you could go back. And that's what I'm saying about decision making. That one was not quick, but it does definitely affect certain things, you know, and that's, you know, when we talk about, you know, the things that we're talking about now, while it's boring to some, if this catches one person's ear, then it's worth it, because that person can take it to another person, and it can spread that way. So sometimes we got to be willing to break out of the things that maybe everyone isn't doing. And I'm not knocking them, that's what they do, man. I mean, it's cool, you know what I mean, and likes and things like that. I get it. But sometimes we got to get down to the substance of what's really going on. This is what we do. We were just in a meeting earlier, you know what I mean, for a company, but this is what we do as far as with the summit. We work with young kids, right? And if that's the case, then we have to reach them in a certain way. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean, and what I mean by that is we can break this up, right? So they might not consume it all 60 minutes, but they can consume some of it, get a little piece of it, and then, you know, go from there. One of the things we wanted to speak about, you know, one of the talking points today is the skill. So the skill would be that we talked about that pause, with the pause principle is what we're kind of speaking on, you know, and that's what growth starts with, pausing as well. You know what I mean? Before you respond, before you react, before you decide, you pause. You just pause, you know what I mean? And what does that mean? You ask yourself these questions very quickly, and you can expand on them. You know what I mean? What could happen? What or who does this affect? And would I be proud of this tomorrow? Think about that. I mean, that's something that an adult can do. You know what I mean? If we go even down to the simple text message, I do it all the time. I do this and don't even know it. You know what I mean? I do this and don't even know it, because I'm like, man, I'll be wanting to send it, but I don't send it. I don't send it though, man. But I'll be like thinking, like, you know what I mean? How does this affect? You know what I mean? What could happen if I send this? They're gonna get hot. You know what I mean? They're gonna be mad or whatever. And then, you know, how would it affect? But would I be proud of it tomorrow? And probably not. Real quick, I'm gonna talk. It says, you know, the 5-second pause can save 5 months of consequences. Think about that. I mean, think about that, and that you don't even think of it like that,
or more, depending on the decision that's at hand.
Yeah, because that pause could apply to like posting as well. Like you could find yourself about to post something that you know that it might have repercussions after, but if you pause and think about like what you're gonna post and think like maybe this isn't something that I should put on the internet or something that I should put publicly.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. And another on another notion, even just an individual bettering their communication. Because like, well, I just did it myself. Something that people do a lot is we use filler words. The individuals that tend to not use filler words as much are those that pause when they speak or slow down and think about what they want to say. In times, like, I feel like inside of a conversation, you know, if I was saying something to you or asked you something like that, and then you just pause, and then on your side, you're thinking about what you're about to say, you know, but you just pause. I feel like society almost makes that feel like an awkward moment.
Oh, yeah, of course.
When truly it's not.
No,
there's nothing wrong with thinking about
because
it.
these impulsive decisions we make, or this is what they cause.
Right.
You know, arguments, somebody being suspended, regrets, right? You know, financial mistakes or lost opportunities because of this impulse. And like I said before, you know, you ain't gonna say nothing. You those type of things. No, I'm not gonna say anything. And I think I talk to a group of gentlemen on a weekly basis, but I told them, and I think pause comes into play. If somebody would say something to me, which it doesn't usually happen, if they were say something bad about me to my face, I wouldn't know what to say. I know it sounds crazy to you. I wouldn't know what to say to them because I don't practice it. But then again, I'm like, I'd have to be pausing to think of it. But before I wouldn't. I could just snap back off with it. You know what I mean? But when you do that, I think sometimes for me, it was really things that were very hurtful that I would say to someone. You know what I mean? And I think I see that being the impulsive decision making. I see that being the case a lot of the times. Instead of pausing, right, and getting that definitely and getting that clarity. I mean, it really is clarity, man. This is silly, man. Shoot, let's just go on. You know what I mean? You have brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? And I do too. But I mean, and you
have a brother cousins.
There you go. See, that's good. I'm glad you said that. So, but sometimes even that pause helps because them though. You know what I mean? And they're not. I mean, these are just people you love, right? And they're not coming from that place. But guess what? They having a bad day. All right, ever. You know what I mean? So we're not gonna help it any by snapping back off and like, I know you ain't say that to me, whatever, you know what I mean? But these are the things we have to do, right? And show that control and respect, right? And it is. I mean, it brings a lot of that when that happens because we talk about is the pause, is that silence? Sometimes I believe it's processing more than anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. The processing side. I mean, you could kind of put something on there where it's like, how long the pause is, but at the same time too, it's like, okay, say the individual paused for so long and then was like, well, I don't have an answer for you right now. Can I come back with an answer a little bit later? We wouldn't find that wrong for an individual to do that. Whereas if they were just like silent, give me a second, just unconsciously, we might.
Right. See, you just said it. See, so now you're getting into which I know, like I said before, this is some of the information I've looked up, right? So you have the emotional brain, right? And then the logical, emotional, reactive, logical, reasoning. You know what I mean? But that pause kind of clicks into the reasoning one instead of being that impulsive and that reactive one. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot because that's what happens when we don't pause. We act with emotion, very much so. But when we pause, now the logic kicks in. And we can be, oh, shoot, that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So we have to manage it more than anything. And it is, like I said before, I'm not saying it's not tough. I'm not telling you it's not tough to manage these things, but it can be. So one of the things, we do here on the growth, we try to do is go back and forth. We spit out a lot of things, right, for you to digest, but then, okay, I get it. You're talking about some logical brain and some kind of emotional brain, but how does that apply to us? Well, it's real life application. Social media, we talked about it a little bit before. Pause before you said posting, right? Pause before we comment. I mean, and also pause before we respond to drama. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. You know what I mean? Is this adding to it or is this hurting it by this? If you can't, to me, like I'll tell everybody this is about something that's called carrying the bone, right? And if you don't do that, right, then how much can you squash? You said something very, very upsetting about Mike. He doesn't know that. But guess what? We're going to be on this show, right? And if I would have told him that before, he going to, I know she didn't, so, and he might want to get something off, but he might be stewing about it. But what if I just never told him? He would never know. He would never know that, because I'm not doing nothing but adding fuel to the fire, which is going to really, spool over, right? Because it gets real tense when it comes to that. And I think, that's why, when somebody, disrespects you and something like that, right? You already know how it is. I know, you get like that, but pause, breathe, right? And then choose your words. I know we can say what we want to say. Just choose your words carefully. I think when you do that, it can go a long way.
I think nobody ever said you couldn't do that, but it's just wise to speak to a certain extent, in a certain manner. That's all.
Exactly. Power is not loud; it's controlled. It's control. When you can control it, that's when. But that's not what people say. I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, you've seen it like when I'm older, but when you see that person that talk loud, y'all too young, man. If y'all would just look back at some of the conflicts and seeing people that was running around, they didn't even do nothing. They ain't doing nothing, but really just, I know you laughing, but ain't it funny? They go, oh yeah, they get it hyped up. They ain't even do nothing. At the end of the day, they did nothing. And then somebody either hit them in the mouth or somebody did something, but they didn't really do nothing. Talk loud and hype things up. That's all they was going to do. You know what I mean? That's what they always say on them. Like when they talk about the NBA and stuff like that, when they get ready to go, fake fighting like they want to fight and they don't want, they sit there wolfing each other. Ain't nobody do nothing, you know what I mean, or whatever. But guess what they're doing? I know it sounds crazy. They're pausing. Even though they're talking, they're really pausing. Because, when you started talking, you got a bunch of people, way more people than, than 10 on the court, but it's people in the stands, stuff like that. They know what it is. They know what it is. They lose their control. They can get in that pocket, right? Yeah. So they're pausing and really realizing, what, is this worth it? You know what I mean? Is this worth it? Because most of the time, it ain't even worth it. It ain't even worth it at all. And that's why, like I said, the pause is the big thing. And that's why doing that is the big thing.
Even in conversations where, like you've already said, we interact with a lot of kids, a lot of individuals in middle school, high school. And we do interact with individuals who get in fights from time to time. And we always do the same thing to an extent. We talk about the situation. And then same thing that we should be doing in a pause situation. We ask them, those same questions. Was it worth it? Are you proud of what you did, in a sense? These are questions you could have asked yourself at that point and not did it, but now you're giving bad answers to these questions.
You just said it. And
it's always regret.
And if we start this pause and we start this reacting, not so much emotionally, but logically to certain situations, that will become a habit. Mm-hmm. But if you got a quick temper, that's what he's known for, right? Once you see that's a habit as well. But that's not a habit that you want to continue, right? Because then you feel, because I do believe that, think about it. I mean, we have as a kid, you see kids throw tantrums and things like that. You have to try to get a hold on it. You have to address it, is what I'm saying. You have to address this. I mean, I'm not saying physically, I'm not telling you that, but you have to address it and make it known, right? We got 100,000 things that, that we got some consequences to some certain things, right? So you don't have to do it in that way. But then it says that, like I said, a 5-minute pause can cause 5 months of consequences. Can save that. But if you don't, this is what happens. But a lot of times when kids, when they throw tantrums and things like that, we can address them, right? But at the end of the day, they have to be better. I mean, they have to be better at the things, but we have to teach them as well. We have to teach them, in order that these things. So you're really cutting down these habits that could be habit forming in a negative way and trying to change it to something positive as well. And understanding that this is what that cause and effect. Yeah, you can do it, but this effect is going to be this, and doing it that way. And that's why, so a lot of times real quick, I'll explain, a little bit. Let's apply it live real quick. So, you got a friend that wants to skip class, but they say it's no big deal. What do you think about that?
You go first.
Me personally, I'm no good for that. I ain't gonna be proud of it. It's gonna cause a negative effect on my classes and things like that. It's a no-go for me. And on my side too, I like to surround myself around individuals that are, one, either like-minded, or two, that are of higher standing than me that I can learn from. Okay. I might reevaluate the friendship at that point, in all honesty, right. Because those are things that would bring me down. It ain't gonna be no bad blood or anything like that. But
a real friend doesn't pressure you into bad decisions.
Right. And see, that's another thing that I always talk about to people that's younger than me. I always tell them, like, a real friend wouldn't, pressure you to do bad things or things that they know aren't good for you. Like, a real friend will tell you what's right and what's wrong and what's good for you, not the bad things. And that's why I don't try to be like surrounded by people who's always being negative. I like to be around people, that can tell me like this is right and this you should do this and this is like, a good thing, not all the bad stuff. Oh, we should sneak and do this or we should do that. Yeah. That's why I try to tell people younger than me. And I always say that, especially to my younger siblings too.
Right, because I think we can outgrow certain environments. We can outgrow them. You don't have to react that way just because. But a lot of times, it's just things we see. Things how we see things as well too. Let's get it right. I always say that when you talk about those real friends, when you talk about people that don't want to get you into trouble, but the ones that seem to be, we always in the trouble. They always got drama around them and things like that. And that's no good, man. That's no good. So, but going back to that friend that wants you to skip class, it's small that one time. But then we keep on doing it, and that's how habits breed. Yeah. They are built off small moments, and we have to try to, definitely step in, and be definitely step in between those things as well. Some other just real quick scenarios is like a group chat drama, right? Your name gets dropped in a group chat. Someone sends you a screenshot of something you said. Now everybody's reacting. So how do you respond to that? How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that? You want to respond, how do you respond to that?
For one, I would take, the advice that we were just talking about, which is pausing. I would pause and think about what I'm going to say before I respond to it, because I don't want to just come off and say the wrong thing. And then that makes it even worse, adding more fuel to the fire. So I think I would just, address the situation, but in an appropriate and respectful way, rather than go about it how I feel about it at the time. Yeah.
But and I will say this, it's like, that's not what's called a one-off. They didn't, they on there dropping up, got a lot of different things, but now somebody got mad, right? Somebody got mad at you, so we still in the chat. You don't know that he mad at you, so you say something out of pocket, not to him, but about maybe someone else. He screenshot and then he take the deal. Then you look like, oh, hold on. One would say, do we just connect with the person privately? Not you, because y'all already beefing, but now, because you didn't already told. But, how do we respond? We got to get out. The thing is, a lot of the small thing is that group chat itself. Now, we're going to put it all on, you shouldn't have did that, right? Well, we shouldn't have probably said it either, but we involved in these things, right? And then when we get too involved, now we like sitting there looking silly like they ain't got my name mixed in this and all this other stuff. And you know how it goes. A lot of times, this isn't funny, but a lot of times this is group chat, which is not, it can be bad too, but a lot of it is the passing of pictures. Not by me. I'm not saying that, but by even kids. Now, not by me, but even kids passing some pretty inappropriate pictures around, right? And this is, definitely, it's sad on a lot of different areas, right? Don't touch it. I would say if my daughter, whoever, your brother, don't touch it, man, because it's a very touchy thing. To disseminate any kind of, or distribute any kind of things like that and passing it around, right? It's that I feel bad for, because now you're making a bad decision of that. It's also the person, the child, or whoever's being taped as well, and the person behind the camera as well. It's a lot of different things, So I tell any parent, definitely know what your kid is. Try to, have that relationship with the kid and know what they're doing, right? And I know, we the disciplinarians, I get that, and I'm not saying it either. I'm not saying I'm a friend. We're getting that to another episode or whatever. That's growth, I think, when you can become. But you're learning that now, that you're, not with your mom. Now, and what I mean by not with your mom, you're old. You're older. That's why. You know what I mean? But think about it. But now the talks are a lot different.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's not because you're not a little. You'll always be a little girl, but now you're on your own too. You know what I mean? So it comes now as suggestions, even though it don't sound like it to her, but it comes as suggestions because that's what you can take them as. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can take them, leave them, not being rude. My mom, she does it to me all the time.
Yeah.
She just doesn't always know how to convey it right. But that's okay. But I'm just saying, I mean, she don't, but it's okay. It's the effort, it's the trying, and I get it. And I appreciate that part. And you should appreciate that with your mom, Appreciate those. But there is a time where we have to break off, right? And we have to understand those things as well. So, real quick, and then we move on, that everybody's doing it thing. And this is, we're kind of focusing on, youth, right? And this is the big thing about you, vaping. Your friends are vaping. And you say it's not serious. You're just being, oh man, you're just tripping. You're just being dramatic. You're just tripping, man. You know what I mean? But once again, is fitting in worth long-term habits? Because that's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it is. I would say definitely not worth it. And I'll find that like almost like every generation has had their thing, And I mean, there definitely is a bigger like global marketing that plays a factor into that too. But then because you figure, I mean, less on vaping, but you figure cigarettes, it looked at as cool at a certain point. It was, even at a certain point in certain places, it was advertised as healthy. Okay, so certain things like that go into it, but then just the actual just wanting to fit in. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember you said, that's funny you said it, because like I said, I'm older, but I used to go buy cigarettes from my uncles because you could. They ain't hard or nothing like that. I mean, the only reason why I go, they ain't want to go. They give me the change, to get my candy and stuff like that. So I go, let's go and get it. But it wasn't like I wasn't there to open them, but that was me. There was a lot of kids probably was. They ain't looking. Right. They ain't worried about that, as far as that. Society was a lot different then. But now, like you said before, when you see this, it's like, is it hard to stand alone? Is it hard to be, that person that don't do it? I figured it may be, but I mean, like I said before, but you just don't know the long-term effects. I mean, me and from driving, let's get it right. I mean, we know from driving, in the, definitely in the non-emergency medical, business, and a lot of people we took. I mean, and people don't want to hear it, but it is what it is. They were there for smoking.
Rough voices,
they were there for smoking, right? And going to the heart specialist, going to the lung specialist, going different cancer center. Let's get it right. I mean, that's it's not to sugarcoat anything. These long-term habits, they do have effects. The only thing is, you don't see them we see them in them cars. You don't see them in those cars, right? Unless you're related to them or you don't see that. Right. And you don't see all the doctor's appointments,
profession.
Right. But guess what? It was cool when we was 11, 12, it was cool. Now look, I done been doing it for 50 years, 40 years. Now I get all these effects from it. And it's very, very sad.
Another factor too, and just that topic right there made me think of it, is another thing that plays into it, I feel, is just what a child idolizes, right? Because you figure for the most part, a lot of children end up in the same professions that their parents would say. They end up in the same, eating the same things or liking the same things, watching the same type of things, So on the habit side, it's the exact same thing. A child seeing an adult does it. In some cases, you do have for example, we'll speak on, we'll say cigarettes. As a child, in my case, many family members did. I don't like cigarettes, just being around it a lot in houses. But at the same time, it might not go that way. It might be the other side of that coin too, where it's I see my dad as being such a certain thing. Right. Right. He was also a smoking man. Right. Idolize that. I'm gonna be that.
And I'm gonna go back to something you said, and then we can go on. I'm gonna go back to something you said about. You said it was advertised at one point as being healthy. Mm-hmm. Reading between the lines. Mm-hmm. This is the next part we're going to talk about. Sometimes reading isn't about books. Literacy isn't about books, but it's about reading situations. Mm-hmm. That's why the importance is about reading, right? Because if I go by oral all the time, right, then you're kind of beholden to the person that's saying it. Because if you don't have anything backing it up, you don't know, they just be running their mouth. And sometimes, guess what? When you ain't trying to be funny, when I went to college, right? it wasn't the fact about the reading part, but I hadn't been a lot of different places. I hadn't been to Detroit. I mean, I guess I've been to Detroit, but a couple of these other places, Florida and places like that, I've never really been there. So all we doing is just hearing this stuff that they talk about from their own places, you know what I mean? But then you're like, well, is it like that? Or, you know what I mean? Like this, so you just really kind of, you know what I mean, understand it. So, but instructions is so important, right? And can you read these instructions? Just like I said before, can you read that? Can you read the fact that, man, they said it was a healthy, this is killing people, you know what I mean, or whatever, and reading those things. So sometimes it even reading, you know, we this is a part of, you know, TSK Learns is also the literacy part of it as well. We put on workshops, you know, with you know, definitely with those, with the Lit Lab. We put those on, but you know, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that they haven't been successful, they have, but then again, the lasting effect is when we talk about habits. Reading, we need to get in a good habit of reading, you know what I mean, on a daily basis. So you can familiarize yourself with different words. But I think, you know, and like I said before, and I, you know, say it here, we're in the process of kind of revamping it, because I still think there is a stigma of, you know, definitely feeling, you know, inadequate at these things and really wanting anybody to know that I'm inadequate at these things. You know what I mean? And that's sad though, because you know what I mean? Because like, you know, because that's why it's so dear to me, because like I said before, I had a problem reading. And it was more or less, you know, brain wise, you know what I mean? When I was, you know, partially dyslexic, so the words were skipping around. That wasn't me, shoot. I wanted to read them like everybody else did. They didn't come out that way. You know what I mean? And they didn't come that way. So just, you know, getting out there and doing these things. But one of the things I could do though was comprehend. Why? Because I had to read the thing 3-4 times. That's but on my time. Now, if in front of you, even today, you know, if you show me a meme today and you laugh, I'm gonna really look through whatever you're showing me on your phone and read your reactions. If you laugh, I'll laugh. You grin, I'll grin. Only because I can't read it as fast as what you think I need to be reading it. And then I don't want you to react, so I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's why I'm just telling you. That's, I mean, even now, but then I'm here to tell you I can read though. But I mean, you'd be like, "Dang, you can't read that? You know, you can't read that." Exactly right. So you know, but it says, you know, it says strong readers become strong leaders because they understand details. The details are what it is. You know what I mean? It was a lawyer. I mean, a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and you know. And I never forget, we was walking to court one day and he told me, it's like, you know, people who, you know, come from these prestigious, you know, colleges, you know, with law degrees, the one thing they don't do is stick, not all of them, but some of them, you know, because they come from Yale and Harvard or whatever, that's what they wear on their chest, but they fail to read the details. All because they feel that their stature is a little bit more, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you still have to read it. And then he said, so a lot of times he wins off of just reading what the law says. And that's it. I mean, that's it. You know what I mean? But like I said before, they understand details. And if you can understand details, it's good. You know what I mean? But that's how people lose opportunities because they don't read carefully. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a lot of times, even what we're saying now, even about pausing and things like that as well, even a text. But that's why a text is so kind of in the middle, because sometimes it can mean different things. Oh, shoot, he mean, oh, what's up? What do you mean, what's up? You know what I mean? Right. You know, what do you mean? You know, like, yeah, good mean, what's up? You know, what's up? You know what I mean? But they say it in a way where, you know, now you're getting all hot or whatever the case may be, and it ain't that way. But reading, like I said before, is something we have to do. And that's what I think a lot of times, you know, the literacy part, you know, of these things, we kind of miss that. Yeah. You know, or, you know, because of that reason. I mean, like I said before, everything involves reading is pretty much.
And they say that like one indicator of IQ is how early an individual gets access to reading material.
Right. There you go. I believe that.
One of those things.
I think reading is important for simply because, like, say if like you were to give me a stack of papers and then you asked me to sign it at the end. Well, I didn't read anything in it, but I just put my name and then I just signed something.
I hate that. I hate that because I don't want you to do that. You know what I mean? But people do it all the time. You know what I mean? But you're going to have to read a job application. You know what I mean?
Sign an employee agreement.
Understand what a lease means. You know what I mean? You have to do, follow directions for medication, right? You have to do, these are things you have to do, right? So it goes beyond books, right? That's what I'm saying. It goes beyond books, and that's exactly what it means. And it does. It goes beyond these things, and that's why we have to stick to it. And we have to stick to all of these things that we're doing and understanding that as well. You know what I mean? Understanding that as well. And that's a lot of times what definitely happens, when we're speaking about literacy and reading as well. But, it goes to show sometimes it's like, it's tough for others to say that out loud. I mean, it's tough for others to do that. But a lot of times, you can avoid mistakes by stuff you're reading. Because, it's one thing to, get the, like I said, word of mouth, definitely. But then when you read something else, you can get that information, and maybe they've missed something and misquoted something as well. And, and that's, maybe that might be intentionally, but that might be intentionally too. It don't have to be that. But, but if without that reading, without having that reading literacy, right, your independence could be kind of limited when it comes to it. And that's exactly what you don't want. So you want to make sure you understand that. You make sure, and we speak about that too, Mikey. We talk about that a lot when we go, when we talk about, business etiquette, and definitely that communication piece about, how do you write a professional email? Because that's where you really I had to send one. You know what I mean? It's one thing to send an email, just stating things, but it's another one when you have a conflict about something. Or but it needs to be worded in a certain way, right? Right, and advocating yourself, you have to understand these things as well. But by just communicating effectively helps these things. I mean, and it does. You you did it not too long ago, which was different, but it meant a lot because I was like, oh shoot, because it wasn't a conversation. It was actually an email, right? But but it means so much when you can do that, when you can, send that email, and you have a lot of aids to help you. I mean, okay, you can't get the words together, but I know something that can help you, I don't know, we talk about chat and different things like that, but they can be used for good things. Yeah, it can be used for good things as well. Not just writing papers, they can be used for good things. Well, that's a good thing too. But I wouldn't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. But this is some of the things we talk about, but literacy goes beyond that. When we talk about reading, it's also digital literacy, right? You know what I mean? So understanding,
especially in today's world.
Exactly right, in today's world. You know what I mean? It's definitely like we just talked about, interpreting social media, right? How we're going to use that, right? How we're going to understand our credibility online, right? Now you can get on there, like I said, you can get on Facebook and all, you know what I mean? Got the liquor, got the weed and all that. I mean, you can do it, but look at the credibility. What if you got that up there? I'm 18. I just turned 18. I put that up there. Now I'm going into the job, wherever it may be. You know what I mean? IBEX to try to get me a job, right? And it's the first thing they do. And there you go. Blunt in hand and liquor and all that. I'm just saying. I know it looks cool, but is it cool now to this employer? It don't look too cool. It looks cool to who? So you gotta kind of remind yourself about those things, and then you also have to manage it as well. That's that response. Oh, they get in drama too. They get messy. What they call it, messy? They still call it messy. Is that what you say? There you go. But that's what that conflict and drama was. You know what I mean? Now, here come Don. He messy, man. He get into it. Everybody online and all that stuff. You don't want that. It's your job. So here we go again, right? And also recognize the kind of when you're being manipulated as well. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So, having that digital literacy definitely helps you, with your reputation, with your safety, in your future. Because like I said before, getting jobs, clean up. These, I mean, it was, I don't know. It was different. We had a travel, we were trying to, get people to hire people and stuff like that. But this one lady tag, it was just getting to me, like, you know what I mean? I forgot what it was. It was something, it was kind of inappropriate. I'm like, huh? I mean, so it wasn't so you even think, I wasn't even digging. I'm like, well, this one comes up on the thing, on the thing. I think that probably ain't one, you know what I mean? That probably ain't gonna be one to hire.
Yeah. But I mean, that's very valid. You're a hiring individual. You hire and fire individuals. You have the power to do that, So that is probably something that's pretty general across individuals in that same position. They see an inappropriate or unprofessional email,
Right.
They might have them exact same thoughts.
And it's growth. I mean, that's what when we talking about, that's what the growth's about. It's growth. It's about stirring away from those things. You know what I mean? Definitely a different, tone to a 10-year-old than it is to a 16, 17-year-old when it comes to these things. I'm not saying they should be doing it either by any means, but that's just maybe not getting in the habit at 10 to where now 17 is normal. What are you talking about? We just on there having fun. But that's what you putting out there to everybody. Right. I mean, that's the thing, Or I don't use Facebook, but you're doing it on TikTok, Instagram. They go in all these places to look for it. Why? Because you don't have to go anywhere. You know what I mean? It tells a lot about, what you're trying to do or whatever the case may be.
Don't know business want nobody who's not going to fit to the values that they have, that isn't going to be able to, on the personality side, mesh with the people there, or that's going to bring any type of bad light to the business.
Bottom line, and a lot of this, when we talk about literacy, why is that important? Because guess what? With some of these emotions that you have, because you're immature, right? It can cause grave consequences. That if you read them, hold on, that's all bad. Do what? That carry this. You probably don't want to do it. You know what I mean? You probably don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. But also it's confidence when you can understand something. It just gives you confidence when you can understand something. So the better you read, the better you can reason. The better you reason, the better you can decide. So all of them tie in together. All of it ties in together. And that's some of the times that I think it's about a lot of times. It's about survival when it comes to literacy. I mean, and we need to make a better push on it as well. Because you can either be a person that, they sitting back laughing about it. It's a lot of people, and we didn't bring it up, but we'll bring it up next time. But it's a lot of people struggling with reading, a lot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's in high school. That's getting ready to graduate. And then this is no knock on the school. We have to, as people, be better too. If you know you're having problems, go to somebody and talk to them. I don't care what grade you're in, even if you are a senior. It ain't too late. It ain't too late because you got a whole life to live. How are you going to read your paycheck if you don't know how do you know? You can't even understand it.
And there has been an increased amount of individuals who are all around the country who are graduating, not being able to read or not being able to read at a 12th grade level and things like that, which is not very good.
No, and that's the thing. And nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. But this is why we have to dig in, right, and do these things. I mean, and make sure we do the tough things, which could be, like I said before, could be reading. It would be one of those tough things that you have to do.
I think the average is like around the country. I think it's like an 8th grade level or 9th grade level reading level. I think is the average. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because I know someone that I talk to that they can't read. So when I text them, it's not a text, it's a voice message. They can hear me, but they can't read what I'm typing on the screen. So
that's tough. I mean, that's good that you know that, but just because you know it don't mean other people do. And now, I mean, if they're young like yourself, then that's all y'all do is text. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Imagine.
I really like calling,
so imagine holding a conversation with somebody and they know nothing about what you're saying. Or they come to you, what did they say? You know what I mean? Because they trying to basically you're having a translator.
Yeah.
Because of that reason. I mean, I think you can get someone on your phone that can do it too. But but being kind of trapped in that. And a lot of it is not them. A lot of people think you're lazy. That's why it doesn't always have to be that either. You know what I mean? It doesn't. We have to make sure there's certain deficiencies that we're blessed to work with the Division of Rehabilitation Services in the Donaghy side, right? We're blessed to work with them, and they help with things like that as well. And we help them too, of course. Being a community rehabilitation provider, we help, but that's the thing; it goes hand in hand. That's why it's always good because a lot of people that we get, they do want to help. I didn't say they knew how, but they do want it because they walk in the door. We don't force them in the door. We don't say if you don't go in there, it's that's it.
They just want that leading direction.
And you see it. I mean, you see it a lot. Once you kind of see see it in action, it's a lot different. When it comes to because But we have grown. When we talk about growth, we have grown as a company as far as the Donachie is to, kind of help with that. Kind of give the visuals, right? Give the computer and the different things like that. Not always quote unquote sitting up there teaching, the old conventional way. We have to do something alternative and something different. We're digging into the VR world now and stuff like that, but everybody's different, man. Some people don't want to touch it, but now some people touching it and they like it. That's what they're going on. And that's good. Just thinking outside the box, but that's, like I said, again, that's about growth. But like I said, the things we talked about today, definitely, watching what you say, pausing, right? That's the big thing, pausing, think about these things, this week, can we practice the pause, right? Before any kind of emotional response, can we practice the pause? Before spending money, can we practice the pause? Before quitting something, can we?
I do that practice pause on money a lot.
Oh, there you go.
I'll be like, I don't think I should get this. I think I can wait.
Maybe I need to. But I will. Maybe I need to practice. But improvement, right? That's the thing about it, improvement on the. And I have, because I haven't bought these shoes in a while. So I have. I'm proud of myself. Yeah, I haven't bought these shoes in a while. So I have. I had to put the pause on it a lot. But it takes that. Right. It takes that, And that's, before we leave, I'll go over a few things that we have going on, with the Summer Collective as well. But, growth, isn't about being perfect. It isn't. But it is about being intentional. You have to intentionally do these things to try to grow and better yourself. And also, like I said, even pause, even using that. That's a little silly thing they talk about pausing. Try it. You'll see. It works. It does work, because if you can control your reactions, you can control your future, and that's a good thing. I think it is. And once again, and that's it. We talk about the strongest people aren't the loudest, and we talk about it, we laugh, we talk about it. It's the disciplined ones. It's the disciplined ones. That's the ones. It was a. I don't always watch basketball, but I did watch a game, and there was an altercation, and it was got like 4 individuals involved, and to watch it, the one they kind of laughed at was the one that got out of the situation, but he was disciplined though, because the other ones, one got 4 games, one got 2 games, one got 7 games, which is a lot of money to lose. But his, response was, what was I supposed to do? You were supposed to pause. That's what you're supposed to do, and let. People, but that's the thing when we talk about stigma and talk about things. I know this is just a game. I'm not saying it, but hopefully he's pausing in his life. I hope he is, because if he's not, then what does it matter about the money? Right. You want to use that money to have to get you out of the consequences you're putting yourself in because of how emotional you are. And that's not good either. But they have words for these. They have words for them, which like I said, for goons and stuff like that. This is the thing I'm talking about. Now I'm talking about like in a basketball sense or, a hockey sense. Came up with that as well. Enforcers, or whatever. But they carry a moniker. But then again, these people don't always pause. They the ones reacting, to stuff or whatever the case may be.
Sometimes sitting at home.
Right. Which one would say? And that's what I said. This is not about, but you have to be disciplined, right? So growth happens in small moments, right? And small moments shape big futures. That's exactly what happens. It does. And that goes paramount for any age. It doesn't only go for 6 to 18-year-old. It goes all the way up. And it does. And that's kind of why we're, here trying to, promote, the growth. A series that we have, a podcast series that we have under the Summer Collective Conversations. These things need to be said. Don't have to be said by us. That's why we always want to try to invite people on to talk. It's hard. Sometimes I know schedules don't match up, but that doesn't mean we don't have to sit down at the table and come up with definitely some great things to talk about, and also some things that can change and help the community as well. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we've done today. And I appreciate Mike. I appreciate Chester for speaking up and joining the growth. Like I said, we'll do it monthly. Like I said before, Collective Conversations will continue to be a weekly show. It will continue to be a weekly show, like I said before. So maybe the focus might not be Wednesday, but it's always going to be weekly, once to twice a week. We'll continue it, and we'll continue that because I think it's a good thing. And like I said before, I appreciate all the people that follow, and I really do, because it's like I said before, and hopefully you get to listen to some of it. I know sometimes you don't have an hour, and I get it. I'm not saying that, but just something that we say, me and my producer here, we're going to put some clips together, right? To put some clips together to help that as well. We're also starting for young youngsters that want to, kind of come and join the platform, as well. Not ours, but just do a podcast or, the right way. Of course, we learning every day. Don't get me wrong. We're not. I mean, she might be a pro. I'm just learning. We're learning every day about doing these things, but we can learn together. I think that's a good thing as well. Also about podcasting itself and about, putting out, good content, but also positive content. You can put out content you want to. We just want to put out, positive content that can help the community as well. We have a shoe drive. The Summer Collective has a shoe drive coming up for the spring. So it's going to, definitely be April 11th, from 12 to 3 here at 345 Prince Street. Come join. We'll have spaghetti here that day. And we hopefully have a whole bunch of shoes. You can drop them off here at 345 Prince Street, Suite B. It's in Rob Dunlap's office, but we're on the end of it. So if you're facing the building, we're on the bottom left, right there where the two orange doors is. Somebody's in one of these from 8 to 4. We'll be from 9 to 4. Somebody will be here if you want to drop it off here, or call my phone 304-894-6867, and we'll come pick it up. We appreciate, like I said, lightly worn new shoes. We'll clean them up, put them in the bag, and we're going to put them out there for everybody to get. It's a very good time, and it's definitely something that's needed. You wouldn't think it, but like I said before, and if you got something, I know it's hard. I know it's hard getting rid of something, but if you haven't worn them in a couple of months, about 3-4 months, they might not be in rotation anymore. So you might want to give them, let us rotate them out to someone else.
Sure, no, we can and we'll find somebody who needs.
Yeah, exactly right. When we do, we do all the time. And we had a great time. The last time was when we did our back to school. We had a bunch and a bunch left. Let's get it right, a bunch left, but it was good, as well. We always, we're trying to, do a little bit better, as far as, because a lot of people are in need. So we try to, I don't want to put limits, because that's hard when you put limits on it, but, being reasonable, I guess, would be the limit. We say just being reasonable when you come, but definitely come get one. It's not the case. I don't want to turn anybody down. That's not what we do. And also come get some good spaghetti. We'll have cooked, get that as well. And like I said, I thank you for joining the growth. Again, we'll have more episodes of Collective Konversations coming on. We got this to add another show to the lineup we have. We still got CJ in session coming up as well, right? And definitely, definitely those things we have, as far as, the good ones that we have as well. We also, I've heard, rumors of, Espresso and Chit Chat coming back. We'd love to have them. So that'll be a good one as well. But we're going to end the day. Like I said, I thank you all for attending. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. Please share it out and get it out there so we get the word out. And I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
Drop a heart in the chat if you think growth is a daily decision.
There you go. We're out.